Before we jump into it, if you've been wanting to learn more about how to work with myself and Kyle one-on-one to get your guaranteed results, as we have over 4,000 transformations, a 98% success rate, and as I just said, fully guaranteed results. We stand behind what we do. We've been in business 10 plus years, and we want to show you how we can get you better results faster by optimizing your training, nutrition, accountability, and goal setting in an optimized manner. So to learn more about what we do, no obligation, check out our website. It breaks down how we approach this and as well as how to get started. So definitely check that out. First link down below. We'd love to hear from you. We have some spots available, and we'd love to work with you one-on-one. So if you've been thinking about it, this is your chance. But now we're going to jump into the episode. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm fired up.
And that's because he's got that high energy. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is how to increase your energy. It's one thing to look good. I've been at places in my life where I've looked absolutely dialed. I've been lean. I've been peeled. I've just looked like I was like cut out of a stone or something, but I've been so lean that it sucked the energy out of me. I was miserable. I was starving. It was not fun. We've done a physique competition, and that is one of those times. So as someone who has matured in their fitness journey, I think it's so important you not only look good, you feel good. And a big part of feeling good is being energized, waking up with some vigor, being hungry to go to the gym and crush it and get some killer pumps, to be able to have the energy to stay up during the day and do some deep work and get done what you need to do. Then most importantly, to have energy for your family and friends. And these tips are all inspired to help you do just that while still seeing amazing results. So take it away, Kyle.
Honestly, number one is one of the most important without a doubt. It's just aiming to do more of what inspires you. So, even work-wise, it doesn't exactly have to be what you do full-time, although I would always encourage that. And I absolutely love, I'm so grateful to be sitting here on a podcast, to be filming content, to talk to so many awesome people. It energizes me. It fires me up. Seeing clients win, talking to all of you in the DMs, like I'm very, very grateful. I never take that for granted, but there's so many different ways to approach it. It could be joining one of your favorite sporting events that you love and you look forward to baseball on Wednesday nights, and that's one of your favorite things and you like keeping up with it. Like there's so many different things, but I think like often we get so stuck in the day-to-day tasks of just being adults, of taking the garbage out, of just taking care of people around you and whatnot, and we forget to do the things that also inspire us as well. And I just think it's so underrated because it's just it's not often talked about, right? And I have a quote here that I came across years ago that really inspired me on this topic. It said, "You often feel tired not because you've done too much, but because you've done too little of what sparks a light in you." And I thought that was great because I think a lot of times people look at themselves as low energy or not exactly motivated because they've done so much, but it's usually because they've done a lot of what they don't care to do and not a lot of what they aren't inspired by, and very little of what actually inspires them and sparks a light in them. So that's going to be number one.
Yeah, when you wake up and you know what you're doing, why you're doing it, I find that is the easiest way to be motivated. Or when there's just something you've been so hungry to complete that you just run through it, you don't even think about it. So having purpose, having goals, these are amazing tips. And I just gotta say that tip alone I find is the ultimate source of energy. And also just knowing you're moving forward is one of the best feelings ever. Knowing you're progressing, knowing you're working to what fulfills you, nourishes you, such a great feeling. But for me, one of my biggest tips would be not stressing over the small stuff and thinking about it too much, because it will drain you. And I'm king of this. Usually when there's something that pops up, I'm really easy to get too in my head about it, to overthink it, to just want to solve it. I definitely like problem solving. So when there's little things, like it tends to bug me. So even today, we were epoxying my garage, which is super exciting, but I guess they were running too many things. They popped the fuse. I have an old fuse box, but like because the fuse was popped, it took away some power from some things that I wanted. And it's like, oh, it's so frustrating. I want to figure out how to fix it. But even for me, I'm like, okay, I'm changing a panel, funny enough, as we get into this whole thing on Friday, which is like in literally 2 days. So it's not really a big deal. And instead of me wasting so much time and energy thinking about this, I know when I'll dedicate the time to fixing that on Friday when they come in and change it. I know it'll be fixed. There's no point me stressing myself trying to figure out how to fix it now. Just the same, if there's something that's stressing you out that's at a later date and there's nothing you can do to prepare for it, overthinking about it, worrying about it isn't going to get you anywhere. And I've used the quote before too, that like overthinking never solve the problem ever. Like, it's not going to do you any good. So it's really important just to slow down, to meditate, to get a great workout in, to get some perspective at, like, sometimes small problems, especially when you don't have many big problems going on, can seem so massive and they can take quite a lot out of you. And even we have an example too, where there's a food place we love to go, and sometimes when we go in there, the person that works there is just really frustrated and really upset, and it's usually over the same things day in, day out. And it's like kind of just a question, it's like, why don't you frame these things and bring more happiness to your life? Because it's just not a good way to operate if every day you're feeling that. Like, that is the easiest way to have your energy sucked from you. So I find that perspective is so important. Sometimes too, when you're really stressed, I just always, like, for me, one thing I always like to do is be like, yeah, I'm safe, I'm warm, I have the basic, I'm fed. Like, when it comes down to it, if you have those three things, like, you're in a pretty good spot. So even though there's like small things, your DoorDash order took longer than you'd want, like, it really isn't as big of a deal as you're making it to be.
Yeah, I find like a big energy drainer is just those like small things that you're like constantly overthinking. Like, even that example of the food place, it's always these like little things that it's just like, hey, it's not the end of the world, right? And I just think some people, like, they will always find something, there's always something to be stressed about. I promise you, no matter what you do, even if you get your fitness journey down, there'll be something else that you have to worry about. And it's just like, when you can switch that mindset and like actively try to turn that off, it just allows you to feel so much more energetic. Even, when someone, like, when I ask someone how they're doing, and it's funny because you can tell when someone's got energy or not. They're just like, oh, I'm okay. And you're like, okay, you're low energy. You're not, there's something bothering you. That's fine. Okay, I'll move on here. And it's not that you have to be like, I'm a very outgoing person. You don't have to be on that level. Like, I'll never expect someone to be like, when you talk to me, I'm like, hey, I'm all there. Like, I'm fired up. And you'll very rarely see me, like, I'd say maybe a small percentage of the time, where I'm like, okay, I'm more mellow. I'm just, a bit lower energy, and that's fine. It's going to happen. But I try to incorporate all of these things. I don't try to just say them. I actually actively try my best. And number 3, obviously easier said than done for some people, depending on, kids and whatever work situations and stuff, but really trying your best to get an adequate sleep and manage stress, as we were just talking about stress. And I try to pay attention to different things, those times where I stay up a little bit too late watching something, I know that it's gonna, affect a little bit of my energy the next day. Kind of working off of number 2, I try not to think about it too much. Like, I know if I'm gonna have a bad night of sleep or less sleep than usual because I'm watching UFC or we're out or whatever it is, like, I really try the next day not to just be like, well, I went to bed late, I only got 5.5 hours. Like, once again, when you think about things too much, it's easy to overthink and cause you to feel less energetic and to have, more stress and whatnot. But simply put, maintaining a solid bedtime routine, trying to go to bed at the same time if possible. Once again, keeping it nice and dark in the room, nice and cool in the room. Not reading before bed, but not spending time on screens, all that other stuff. Like, when you pay attention to how that makes you feel day in and day out, it's an incredible difference. And I think the biggest mistake people make within sleep is just their overall kind of like routine around it, and the lack of consistency. Try to go to bed at the same time, try to get up at the same time. I know it's very simple to elaborate, but it's very hard for a lot of people to execute, especially as life can get busy. So that's going to be number 3.
Yeah, number 4 is optimize your day with energy boosting habits. And I'm big on this. So right off the start of the day, if you're hitting that snooze button a bunch of times, you're sleeping longer than you should be, you're already at a loss, because laying in bed, doing nothing, looking at your phone, like, it's just, you're starting your day behind. You're starting your day comparing. You're starting your day saying, I'm going to put off getting off 4 or 5 times. And when it comes down to you actually doing what you need to do, like going to the gym, you'll say, do it later in the week. Like, you're creating that standard for yourself. So right off the hop, getting out of bed, forcing yourself into that rhythm, having a nice big glass of water, doing something that energizes you, spending some time on yourself, whether it be a walk, whether it be taking a second just to do some meditation, to just kind of gather yourself for the day, to whatever it may be, doing these things, getting some sunlight, like, just such a positive start to the day. So that is definitely something I'm really, really big on. Otherwise, past that, just anything within that day. Like, when I get tired, usually midday, I'll just go on a walk. I always feel good. I've never regretted doing a walk. I've never regretted doing a workout. I've pretty much never regretted doing like a fun, active activity of any regard, whether it be like rock climbing, mountain biking, any of these fun things. Like, I just find these are always energy producing habits, and really diving into things that I know are net good for me is always beneficial, even when you're feeling a little bit tired and a little bit beaten down. Like light movement in general is so regenerative, and I'm just so big on it. So that's my next tip.
I really think if you pay attention to what energizes you, what drains you, game over. Like when you pay attention to it and also execute on it, it makes such a big difference. You know, if you hang out with the high school friend and it drains you, you feel bad, you've been, talking bad about people because you're with that person, like, and you notice that, you can make changes going forward and you can adapt based off of how that makes you feel. Laying down, for example, not that it's a bad thing. We all deserve rest. We all can relax. If you realize at 3 p.m., the second you lay on your couch, then it's game over. You're less energy, whatever it is. If you pay attention, you have that coffee and you actually feel worse afterwards later on, like, actually think about these things. I think it's so common to just like run around, get caught up in life and just like not pay attention. But like one of my biggest things is just energy, like thinking about it and figuring out how can I be at my absolute best. And once again, you catch me at 8:30 p.m. It's a long day, whatever. Like I'm not going to always be on top of it and just fired up. 8 a.m. will be a very different story. But just trying to be the best you can and it is so important. And energy is contagious and it's incredible. That's why we wanted to talk about it today. But obviously, exercise, like one of the greatest things for sure. Regular physical activity will improve your circulation. It'll enhance your overall energy levels, and it'll just like leave you feeling incredible. I try every single day, no matter what, at least 60, I'd say minimum 45 minutes of exercise, even if it's a rest day. Walking is fantastic. I pay attention to how that leaves me feeling. The gym 5 times a week, like going into the gym, I'll always be like in a pretty good state, but afterwards it's just so hard not to be fired up and just like, have just when you're pumped up and you just focused on yourself for over an hour, there's just no better feeling. So consistent exercise makes such a big difference.
And the next up is just a balanced diet. This one is always going to be a source of energy. When you're eating really bad food that's really hard on your system, really bloating to you, it's going to suck a lot of energy out of you. Whereas when you're eating the best food possible, food that makes you feel phenomenal, that isn't too heavy on your stomach, I find it just a lot more motivating for you to get moving and grooving. And for me in general, I always try to buy the best food I can because that is the fuel for you. And this can greatly affect your energy levels, especially if you're always just eating garbage and it's leaving you feel spent over and carrying into the next day. So really being aware of these things, and even for me, eating to the position of satisfied or just past satisfied instead of stuffing myself makes such a big difference. Even protein has so much direct benefits towards energy, can even help stabilize blood sugar levels, and it's just a longer lasting source, meaning it's going to break down slower. It's going to leave you feeling more sated, which is absolutely fantastic. So by making more of an effort to really have a balanced diet, to improve the quality of your diet, to still enjoy some fun things and really move towards that 80-20 is just going to be in your benefit every time.
Yeah, and I know every single person's been to the point where they've been spilt over, they've gone to a buffet, and how do you feel? I'm willing to bet you complain about how drained you are, how horrible you feel, how you just want to sleep. Like that's obviously a pretty intense example, but even still taking that to a certain degree, like when you just have a little bit too much or it's just like not the greatest stuff for you, you're going to feel pretty bad afterwards. Whereas like a nice healthy meal prep, I'm like at any given point, I feel incredible. I filled myself up. I've eaten to the point where I'm not, spilt over. I'm a little bit hungry, but I'm not too full. Like it's amazing at how that can leave you feeling. And once again, a lot of people don't think about these things. And one other thing I forgot to mention for consistent exercise, number 5, is a lot of people will say they don't have the energy to exercise. I've heard that a lot of times over, not a million, but a lot. And unfortunately, like to get to that point where you do have that energy, sometimes you have to take that uncomfortable step and move even when you're not feeling fired up, and it will lead to it afterwards. And it's like one of the most common mistakes people make is thinking like, oh, I've had a long day of work, I'm tired, I don't want to move, but they don't realize that the more they move, the more it'll actually produce energy. And it's hard to accept, but it does make a big difference. But number 7, something we are so passionate about, is spending anywhere between 15 to 60 minutes. I mean, if you can have more time, that's awesome, but getting inspired. And that could be a number of different things. I'm rerunning some of the audiobooks that I know motivate me. I just restarted two of them. I listened to one, I'm redoing another one as well. I just know that anytime I listen to it, I'm inspired, I'm fired up. I'm not going to be learning tons. Like there's obviously a lot of audiobooks that are a little bit more in depth where you'll learn some more, but I know that it's going to get me in a great start. I'm not doing tons of it each day, but even if I'm driving, I'm like, hey, I'm going to toss it on. But audiobooks, podcasts like this, it's going to charge you up, with our energy, but also just like the learning, like it's amazing how that gives you energy because you're learning stuff that you can apply, which therefore will leave you feeling great because you know how to approach a certain subject and topic and part of your journey and whatnot. And then of course, books, motivational videos. Before you go to the gym, if you watch a leg day workout of someone crushing it, it's going to be hard not to be energetic and fired up for that. But yeah, spending any amount of time, I promise you, can give you some big energy boosts, especially if you're not feeling the most fired up. And that's all we have for today. If you're looking to learn more to get the best results possible on your fitness journey, please click the first link down below. It's our website. You can submit an application. There's no strings attached. Just take a few minutes, put some answers in there, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to feel your best day to day, gain more confidence, gain more energy, and just get the results that you deserve, I promise you, we will never let you down. We will be there for you. So we can't wait to see your application in there.